working with the DSWD for decades. But still, sila po ay mga JO pa rin o casual. Although tinanong ko na po yan, baka naman meron mga unfilled positions, sabi nila meron pero kukunti lang, hindi na match doon sa demand na para magkaroon ng permanent position o plantilla yung mga matagal nang nagtatrabaho sa DSWD, Mr. President.
Tama ko kayo, Senator Raffy. In fact, every year ina-advocate po ito ni Senator Joel Villanueva at regular ho natin sinasabi sa kasamahan ho natin sa executive na dapat ho yung mga unfilled position lagyan na ho natin or regularize natin yung mga GOs and COS. Just to give you an idea po, ang pinakamarami pong GOs at COS ay nasa local government units. About 70% ng mga GOs at COS nasa local government units. Ang national government, about 20%. So isa rin po yan na dapat ho natin ipaalala sa ating mga local government units. For example, yung mga street sweepers na sinabi nyo, na kung merong opening o magkaroon sila ng programa na i-regularize itong mga COS at GOs dahil every 6 months nangangamba sila kung marirenew yung kontrata nila. No? At kung maganda naman yung trabaho nila, dapat maging reward at patas rin para sa kanila na ma-regularize.
Okay. Siguro alam na po natin lahat, ito Mr. President, palagi tayo nagsisigaw na no to endo or end of contract. At pinapatama natin palagi yung mga private companies, mga malalaking korporasyon. Pero wag ka, ang numero unong violators ng endo ay ang gobyerno. So bakit hindi po natin bigyan ng tamang budget ang mga hensyang nangangailangan ng mga taong gawing permanent sa pamagitan ng giving the right budget?
Magandang balita ho, Senator Tulfo, dahil this coming year, mag-uumpisa na po yung Government Optimization Program under RA 12231. At mayroon pong 10 billion pesos na nakalaan para dito po sa optimization program. So ang ibig sabihin nitong optimization program, gagawa rin po ng mga plantilla positions, hindi lang po magiging epesyente po yung government operations, kung hindi maglalagay rin po ng tamang tao sa tamang posisyon.
Okay. Nabanggit niyo, Mr. President, kanina na marami mga unfilled positions sa different government agencies, and you are really correct. As a matter of fact, base po sa datos, umaabot sa 154,986 yung mga unfilled positions para sa 2026 lang. So ano po ang balak ng ating pamalaan para yung mga unfilled positions ay malagyan ng posisyon?
Tama ho kayo, Senator Tulfo. Out of the 2 million positions, 179,000 ang unfilled positions. At meron din pong mga complication to pagdating sa qualification standards. Tama po yung observation ho ninyo na may GOs pero may unfilled position. So ito yung isa sa mga ayusin po sa government optimization law para po matulungan natin yung mga GOs at COS makapasok po dito sa mga unfilled positions. Kasi itong mga unfilled positions, created na ho siya. No? At pwedeng lagyan ng pondo, iba nga may pondo na, pero hindi naman na-filled ng iba nga, taon na eh. No? So, yun po yung isang mga gagawin po ng government optimization program.
Thank you, Mr. President. Karamihan sa mga JO o COS ay hindi hindi civil service eligible. Yeah. At dahil kailangan ng eligibility bago maging regular or permanent, kailangan nila mag-exam. So, paano po natin sila matulungan, Mr. President, para mas mapabilis, mapagaan sa bulsa ang pagkuha ng civil service exam at malamang sa malamang sila ay papasa, Mr. President? Anong klaseng suporta ang pwedeng maibigay ng Civil Service Commission doon sa mga mag-exam na tulad sinabi ko, hindi sila civil service eligibility, kaya hindi pa sila ma-hire. Anong tulong o programa meron ng civil service para ma-ensure na later, balang araw, sila ay maging permanent at sila ay papasa muna sa civil service exam, Mr. President?
Aside from the government optimization law, Senator Raffy, meron ding ang CSC na inalabas na resolution. This is CSC Resolution 2301123. At ito ay tinatawag nilang Career Service Eligibility Preferential Rating. So this Career Service Eligibility Preferential Rating to specified government workers based on length of service and work performance. So at ang application ho nito applies to JO, COS, casuals, contractuals, coterminous employees, and those holding category 3 and 4 positions. So in other words, mabibigyan ho sila ng preferential rating based on their length of service and their performance. Kung maganda naman po yung ginagawa ho nila, matagal na ho sila sa gobyerno, expert na sila sa ginagawa nila, kahit na wala ho silang civil service eligibility, pwede ho silang bigyan ng preferential rating.
Thank you, Mr. President. Let's move on. Doon naman po tayo sa digitalization. Digitalization is one of the most effective ways to eliminate human intervention, prevent bribery, and accelerate government services. Digitalization is not about building and funding more systems. Ito po ay tungkol sa pag-alis ng mga pagkakataon para sa korupsyon, ensuring secure data, and making government faster and more transparent. Kung ang digitalization ay puro scan at upload lang ng documents, lipat lang sa online ang corruption at hindi ito mawawala. Sa kabila ng maraming digitalization programs sa iba't ibang ahensya, patuloy pa rin po ang korupsyon, smuggling tulad sa customs, at pandaraya sa mga dokumento. Malinaw na may mga kakulangan sa implementasyon, security, at system integration. Ang tanong, how do we hold agencies accountable when digitalization projects fail to deliver real results? What concrete mechanisms are in place to evaluate this system actually work? Ito naman po sa digitalization sa Bureau of Customs, Mr. President.
Actually, isa po sa paraan para po hintuhon natin ang corruption is through digitalization. And actually throughout the hearings here in the Senate, ang nakikita kong overall theme ng mga agencies is request for ICT equipment and digitalization. And pangalawa, the use of artificial intelligence. That's why they're requesting for ICT. So ang direksyon ho ng buong gobyerno is mag-digitalize. And here in the Department of Finance, meron ho silang 6.9 billion allocation for digitalization and modernization initiatives. So yan po yung programa ho natin at nakalaan sa budget para po sa digitalization in the Department of Finance. But for the entire bureaucracy, meron ho tayo nakalaan na 87 billion for digitalization activities of different agencies, Department of Education, the ICT, even the judiciary, Mr. President, talagang full speed sila for digitalization. DILG, kanina nabanggit ko, DOF. So the whole government has 87 billion for digitalization efforts.
Thank you, Mr. President. Noong April 2024, sabi po ng Bureau of Customs, 96.99% digitalized na po ang kanilang operasyon na nag-start po noong March 2021, which is very good, actually. Ang tanong po, sino po nag-provide ng digital system ng BOC, Mr. President?
Mr. President, thank you for that question. I was advised by the Bureau of Customs na dahil po nagkaroon ng kaso once upon a time, meron silang efforts to have a fully digitalized system provided by a supplier, but nagkaroon ho ng kaso to, so hindi ho natuloy. So ang ginawa ho nila, using their in-house IT office, nag-develop po sila ng systems in-house na nag-digitalize sila ng different offices. But Mr. President, hindi ho ito perfect, no? Marami dito sa mga systems nila are individually developed. So hindi pa ito yung tinatawag natin end-to-end system. So yun naman ang balak ko ni Commissioner Nepomuceno last time nung nagkaroon ho kami ng hearing sa Committee on Ways and Means, na magkakaroon ho sila ng partnership with a entity na magpo-provide ng end-to-end system at no cost to the government.
So right now, you said, Mr. President, na internalized
Yes, internal
sila.
Correct.
Pero isn't that dangerous? There's the risk na magkaroon ng tampering kasi sila lang po ang nag-uusap.
To avoid that particular issue, but right now, because we don't know that, we have no choice but to
But- Yeah. Tama ho kayo, Senator Tulfo, na importante yung check and balance even within the Bureau. So, meron ho silang mga ginagamit na technologies para magkaroon ng audit trail at gumagamit rin sila ng digital signatures para ma-track down yung movement po ng mga papeles. But from a management level ho, meron silang an independent group. This is the Information Management Group that reports straight to the commissioner, no, na independent ho siya. So parang siya yung nagche-check po sa lahat po ng mga activities sa baba po ng Bureau of Customs, at yung independent group na yun reports directly to the commissioner. But moving forward, ang plano ho talaga nila ay magkaroon ng isang third-party provider, at itong third-party provider rin will provide a much more sophisticated system pagdating sa audit trail at sa transparency and accountability.
Okay. A good example, Mr. President, ay yung sa X-ray. Meron tinatawag na green lane at may tinatawag na yellow lane. So, yung kargamento lahat ng kargamento ay dumadaan dyan sa X-ray, supposedly. And yung mga natatag as sa yellow lane na dapat dumaan, yun ay mga kargamentong galing sa mga high-risk countries na pinaghinalaang talamak ang smuggling ng kung ano namang mga produkto or may mga kontrabando. Sometimes natatag dahil yung broker o importer ay meron ng hindi magandang record. Now, paano po natin ma-ensure, Mr. President, na doon sa computer system na nakakonect sa X-ray, hindi po ma-alter yun at yung mga kargamento na dapat naka-yellow lane, i-green lane na lang lahat-lahat?
Well, Mr. President, I was advised by the Bureau of Customs. Meron ho silang mga parameters for the green lane, also for the yellow and red lane. No? So may mga parameters ho sila. In a nutshell ho, only the commissioner can change the parameters. No? So hindi ho pwedeng kahit sino-sino lang at the lower level na palitan po yung parameters. So meron ho silang committee or group that discusses about the parameters, but it's only the commissioner that can change those parameters. No? So ganun po yung kanilang check and balance, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. President. Dumako lang po tayo sa National Single Window System or NSW. The National Single Window is the flagship anti-smuggling digital system to automate and integrate all trade-related procedures. During last year's budget hearing, then Secretary Ralph Recto committed that the system would be in place by May 2025. As of today, hindi pa rin po nagpa-function yung NSW, I believe, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, within the year, magkakaroon na tayo of what we call an enhanced national single window. A mechanism ho nito will be a PPP, and the program advisor is one of the biggest funds, national sovereign funds in the world, no? Temasek Holdings of Singapore. So sila yung advisor on this enhanced national single window, and it will be undertaken by the DICT. So DICT po ang lead agency na gagawa nito. So tama ho kayo, napakatagal na itong national single window. Parang every budget naririnig ko. But this time around, under the leadership of former Secretary of Finance, si Secretary Ralph Recto, matatapos na ho ito by end of the year. No?
So, sa next budget hearing, Mr. President, meron
Yes,
na.
Mr. President. Tama kayo. Actually, every year naririnig ko rin to.
Okay.
And this is a way to fight red tape. No? Kasi single window. So doon na lang po pupunta ho talaga lahat. And fully digitalized to. So I was advised kanina na by end of the year, tapos na po yung PPP. No?
Okay. Pag-usapan na natin, Mr. President, yung interest payments on national government debts. Yung binabayaran nating interest sa utang ng gobyerno ay umabot na sa 503 billion pesos noong 2022. At lalaki pa po ito sa 950 billion pesos ngayon 2026. Kumpara nitong taong 2025, madadagdagan ito ng 101 billion pesos sa taong 2026. So, ang bayarin po natin sa 2026, konti na lang abutan na nito ang budget para sa local government units na nasa 19.9% ng 2026 budget. So, okay lang pong umutang kung napupunta sa maganda yung inutang. Ano po? Masasabi natin sulit at pagbabayad natin ng interest na kung gaano man kalaki yun. Meron ba tayong datos kung alin ang good debts at alin po yung bad debts, Mr. President?
Thank you, Mr. President.
Binabayaran lang natin yung sarili natin. Bumabalik din niya sa ekonomiya. Purchases.
Actually, napag-usapan ho namin ni Secretary Recto, ngayon Executive Secretary, na naawa ho ako sa kanya dahil pagod na ho pumalekta ng buwis at mag-increase ng revenue para sa gobyerno. Pero masakit ho sa kanya na napupunta naman po sa mga korupsyon at projects na wala naman pong benepisyo sa taong bayan. Kaya napakahirap po dahil mahirap mangolekta ng buwis at mahirap po talagang siguraduhin na meron ho tayong pondo.
This year, kukolekta tayo 2.6 billion a day.
Yeah. So sabi niya ho niya, ang program ho for 2026 is 13.6 billion a day ang collection. So having said that, Mr. President, going back to the interest payments, actually ho ang utang ho ng gobyerno lumobo po during the pandemic dahil kailangan ho natin umutang for vaccines and yung mga anti-COVID equipment, anti-COVID programs. Dati po ang ating debt to GDP is below 40%. Nasa 30% pa nga ho at one point. Pero umakyat ho yan to about 60-65% after the pandemic. So marami ho talaga sa utang na yun dahil po sa COVID. Pero kailangan ho dahil bumili ho tayo ng vaccines. Pero ang kagandahan naman po, yes, at that of course, ngayon ho, dito sa administration ho, ang nagbabayad nitong increase in pero ang kagandahan naman ho, may planong pababain yan. No? So hopefully over time, makabalik na tayo sa pre-pandemic levels natin. Basta ho, tuloy-tuloy ang paglago ho ng ating ekonomiya.
Okay, thank you, Mr. President. I don't know kung suntok sa buwan itong katanungan ko, Mr. President. Kailan kayo mababayaran ng Pilipinas ang lahat ng utang nito? Kasi every single year, tayo po'y umuutang. And every single year, tayo po'y nagbabayad sa interest po lamang. At hindi po nagagalaw yung principal. Kasi sa ngayon, Mr. President, yung mga apo-apo natin may utang na agad. Dahil sa napakalaking trilyones na utang ng ating pamahalaan, Mr. President.
Well, Mr. President, in reality po, walang bansang walang utang. Walang bansang walang may utang. Halos lahat po, actually lahat ng bansa may utang po. Ang importante po, minamanage po yung utang. At isang paraan para po i-manage yung utang ay tuloy-tuloy ng paglago ng ekonomiya. At tayo naman, ang kagandahan sa atin dahil maganda po yung fundamentals ng ating ekonomiya, yung credit rating ho natin maganda. No? So nasa stable at investment grade ho tayo. Ang effect ho niyan, mababa po yung interest payments na binabayaran natin sa mga international lenders ho natin, even domestic lenders. So ang importante ho ay tuloy-tuloy po yung paglagay ng ekonomiya natin para po yung utang ho natin mapapaliit at mapapaliit ho natin. So yun po yung strategy na ginagawa po ng administrasyon.
So sa ngayon ba, Mr. President, yung utang natin na nagagalaw ba yung principal, meaning nababawasan ba o puro pagsiservice lang tayo ng interest every year, Mr. President?
Ang strategy ho ng economic managers ay yung principal po ay rollover, in-rollover ho natin. So nagbabayad ho tayo ng amortization, nagbabayad ho tayo ng interest at pinapaikot lang ho natin. So kahit na umikot ho siya, basta lumalago po yung ating ekonomiya, liliit at liliit po yung ating utang. So in fairness naman, in the past few years, ang average growth natin nasa around 5%, 5.9%. So yan po ay mabilis kumpara po sa mga ibang bansa na ang growth ho nila ay nasa mga 2% to 3%.
So ibig sabihin, maganda po yung growth ng ating bansa.
So far.
At lalong nagkakaroon ng kumpiyansa yung ibang bansa na para pautangin tayo. Pero hindi pa rin nagagalaw yung principal. Hindi pa rin nababayaran.
Ano naman po, pinapaikot naman ho. Yan ay isang strategy na ginagawa po ng, actually most countries ganun ho, pinapaikot lang po yung kanilang utang. So ganun po yung strategy ng most economies.
Ang utang ng buong mundo ngayon.
Okay, narinig ko sinabi ni Executive Secretary.
Just to put in the record, sabi po ng ating Executive Secretary, utang ngayon ng buong mundo, lahat po ng 200 plus countries is about $400 trillion.
Ang global GDP, 100
Ang global GDP is $100 trillion. So 4 times ang utang. Tayo po is around nasa 60 tayo. So wala tayo sa 4 times.
Pero tama po kay Mr. President, halos lahat ng bansa naman may utang.
Meron naman po. Meron.
Yes.
Oh.
Okay, doon naman po tayo sa Chinese foreign donations. Ano po, Mr. President? In a memorandum issued by the Investment Coordination Committee, or ICC, on June 2, 2017, it was stated that all proposed projects for funding with the Chinese government, regardless of amount, shall require the ICC's approval. Ilan po sa mga China-funded projects that are still for review, if there are, by the ICC?
Sa ngayon po, Mr. President, wala na ho tayong China funding or China loans. Marami po dito sa mga China loans, yung mga ODA China loans, nag-expire na po. Since wala na rin pong interest from China to lend to us at tayo, wala na rin interest to borrow, nag-expire na po itong mga China loans po.
Okay, thank you, Mr. President. Now, there is this report from Louis Institute on Southeast Asia Aid Report that cites the Philippines, well, cited by the Philippine Star, the projects that did end up being funded by China included a military grant from China's Defense Ministry in 2022, where around 1 billion pesos worth of donated Chinese military equipment. It was acquired by the Department of Defense under then Secretary Delfin Lorenzana. Is this part of the documents that the Investment Coordination Committee review? Aware ba ho ang ICC dito, doon sa donation?
May I know from Senator Rafi, anong year po yan?
2022. There was a military grant from China, Defense Ministry, worth 1 billion.
Yeah.
Ito po ay na-cite sa Philippine Star.
We're not aware.
Insofar as the economic managers, Senator Rafi, they're not aware of this grant. Siguro ang pinakamaganda pong matanungan ay ang DND,
DFA.
at DFA po, when
DFA.
the time comes. But wala ho silang nakuhang application for a loan or application for a grant from the Chinese side.
Okay. Pero monitored ba ng ating gobyerno, Mr. President, itong mga so-called military grant from the Chinese Defense Ministry na ibinibigay sa ating bansa, especially if we consider na may problema ang China, tayo sa West Philippine Sea. So tayo ho ba ay tumatanggap pa rin ng grant from
Nakita ko ho
Chinese
itong
military?
news article. Ito yata yung binabanggit niyong military China donates 1 billion military aid to the Philippines 2022. Tingin ko ang pinakamagandang sumagot ho nito ay yung DND. Kung ano po yung update nitong grant na ito.
Okay. Monitor lang ng DBCC.
So far as the DBCC is concerned, ang kanilang minomonitor po ay yung non-military donation, loans and grants.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. President. Noong February this year, 4 po na Chinese nationals who are leaders of civic groups overseen by the Chinese Communist Party, yung CCP, Foreign Influence Network according to Reuters, accused by Philippines of espionage for flying drones to spy on the Philippines Navy, made 500,000 cash donation and 10 patrol vehicles to Tarlac Police and the city government. They also donated 10 Chinese-made Sinsky motorbikes worth around $2,500 to the Manila Police in 2022. Yung pangalan po ng mga Chinese nationals ay si Wang Yongyi, Wu Junren, Kai Xiaoshuang, Chen Haixiao were among 5 Chinese men detained by Philippine investigators for allegedly gathering images and maps of Philippine naval forces near the South China Sea. Ang tanong ko po, paano natin ma-regulate ito mga donasyon, whether grant or whatever you call it, coming from the Chinese government to being given to the Philippines, Mr. President?
I think from what I understand, Mr. President, this type of donations can be, I think pag local government po ay pwede ho silang kumonsulta muna sa Department of Foreign Affairs or Department of National Defense if meron pong mga national security issues. Kung meron pong, or DILG, pwede rin ho silang kumonsulta. Kung ito po ay binibigay sa agencies diretso, pwede rin ho silang kumonsulta sa DFA at the DND. No? So, so far parang wala po akong nalalaman na process on how to accept donations from China.
Sa national government, basta non-military, dadaan sa amin sa DOF.
Pag non-military po, diretso ho yan sa Department of Finance. No?
Foreign Affairs.
At Department of Foreign Affairs.
Pag local government,
I think pag local government ho, it's up to the local government to consult the DND, the DFA, and the DILG for this type of activities, Mr. President.
But ang local government, bawal umutang sa foreign.
Grant po kasi it's normally the foreign entity tapos diretso na po sa local government. So it's important for the local government to consult different agencies kung meron pong issues of geopolitical or may issues po of national security.
Thank you, Mr. President. Dako naman po tayo sa pananalapi. Yung ating bansa ay nag-import ng napakaraming mga bagay mula sa bigas, isda, damit, etc. Pati pera natin ay imported sa Australia para sa kalaman po ng lahat. Our polymer banknotes are printed by Note Printing Australia. Kailan po darating yung panahon na yung sariling pera natin tayo na po nag-imprint at hindi na po galing pa sa ibang bansa, Mr. President?
Yeah, I was advised, Senator Tulfo, by the BSP na once upon a time, dito pala piniprint sa atin yung ating mga pera. No?
Okay.
Once upon a time. But because of technological requirements and security features, piniprint na ho to sa labas ng ating bansa. Pero meron silang direction rin to develop local capability in partnership with the private sector na dito po gagawin na yung printing. No?
And when will that be? When will that happen, Mr. President?
Yung mga paper, Mr. President, yun kaya ho natin i-print. Pero alam naman ho natin ngayon ang mga papel, ang pera ngayon is hybrid na. May polymer, may fabric. So high-tech na ho yung papel para tumagal ng tumagal. At yun po piniprint ho yun sa labas po ng bansa.
Okay. Sabi po ng Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, yung polymer banknotes daw have a lifespan of 2 to 5 times longer than paper ABACA notes, leading to potential significant long-term cost savings. Pero in May this year, Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas and the Philippine Fiber Industry Authority, o yung PhilFIDA, have started discussions on the return of ABACA into the country's banknotes. Very supportive po ako dyan na balik na lang po sa ABACA yung banknotes natin. Magandang support na rin po to sa ating mga magsasaka. So wala ho bang plano ang ating pamahalaan, Mr. President, na ibalik na lang sa ABACA yung banknotes natin? Or baka pwede naman po paghaluin na lang po polymer and ABACA. Integrated po para at least, well, yung mga farmers natin natutulungan.
I was advised by the BSP Senator Tulfo that yung requirements natin for ABACA ay napakalaki na hindi rin nasusupply ng local suppliers. Yung kailangan ng BSP po, no, yung particular na kailangan. Dahil po yung notes is a very sensitive product at kailangan durable rin, pwede magamit at magamit dahil pag nasisira ng ng mabilis, kailangan ho natin mag-print all the time. So it has to be a balance between yung local supply and also yung durability ng pera. No? So, and that's also one thing that they're trying to balance para po matulungan yung mga local suppliers po natin dito. But yung kailangan nila, yung type of ABACA na kailangan nila, kulang rin po yung supply dito. No?
Kulang? I thought, sabi sa isang datos, Mr. President, the Philippines remains the world's largest supplier of ABACA fiber, commonly known as Manila hemp, contributing significantly to the national economy and providing employment to approximately 1.5 million Filipinos.
Yung move ngayon ng BSP, Senator Tulfo, is yung hybrid na may polymer and ABACA. No? So that's what they're trying to come up with as banknotes. And yun po yung kanilang move para rin merong indigenous material rin yung ating pera.
So meron na pong plano na integrate
Meron
po?
naman plano po. Meron naman silang plano na gumawa ng hybrid product.
Kailan
But ang
po
importante hong sa kanila is yung durability. Kasi yung pera, diba, araw-araw ginagamit in exchange of hands, ang dami. So, importante na yung banknotes tumagal ng tumagal para hindi yung napupunit, hindi yung nalulukot. Yun naman po. But they also balance it with indigenous materials po natin.
Okay, thank you, Mr. President. Sa commitment fees na lang muna tayo. Actually, I have few more questions, 2 or 3. A levy or charge imposed by creditors on the undrawn scheduled availment of the loan, that's the definition of commitment fees. Halimbawa ng bad debts ay ang mga proyektong inutang natin, yung pondo, tapos hindi naman po naman nagalaw yung inutang na pera sa kung anong kadahilanan ng mga implementing agencies. Isang halimbawa dyan ay sa DPWH. Isa pang example, delays na implementation ng Malolos-Clark segment of the North-South Commuter Railway or NSCR has already led to the accumulation of commitment fees of $6.5 million or 376.779 million pesos from 2020 to 2024, according to data from the ODA Portfolio Review 2024, Mr. President. So, isa pa pong example, yung the South segment that connects Metro Manila to Calamba, Laguna of the North-South Commuter Railway NSCR has likewise incurred commitment fees to the tune of $5.2 million or 201.44 million pesos. So sa exchange rate na 57, tumaas na rin ata ngayon, ano? Hindi ko alam kung magkano exchange rate niya.
59 plus na.
59. Well, sayang naman po yung perang binabayad para sa commitment fees. So, paano po natin maiwasan yung ganito mga senaryo o sitwasyon, Mr. President?
Tama ho kayo, Senator Rafi, and thank you for pointing that out dahil yung commitment fees ho talaga ay largely connected to the implementation of projects. Kung delay po yung implementation of projects, magkakaroon ho tayo ng commitment fees. At marami rin sa delay of projects is caused by factors na hindi rin natin kontrolado. For example po, yung right of way. No? Ito madalas natin pinopoint out na dapat maayos ng gobyerno dahil kung na-delay ang right of way, delay ang project, magbabayad tayo ng commitment fees. Ang kagandahan ho, meron na tayong bagong batas on right of way. Hopefully we can that law can accelerate the acquisition of right of way for infrastructure projects, lalong-lalo na transportation projects. No? So yeah. And also yung support to budget, no, both kasi ang mga ODA loans kailangan may counterpart, no, tinatawag na GOP counterpart, dapat available na yan at available rin yung pondo for right of way, no. So in other words, dapat hindi ho na-delay ang project para hindi tayo magbayad ng commitment fees.
Okay, thank you, Mr. President. Last question. So, dun sa mga malalaking kontrata ng ating gobyerno, ano pong ginagawa ng Department of Economy, Planning and Development o DepDev to ensure na yung mga proyekto na pinupunduhan ay talaga magpupush to at hindi na po masasayang yung pera, Mr. President?
Dito po sa bagong DepDev, meron na ho silang tinatawag na Infrastructure Committee. At itong Infrastructure Committee, regular ho nila in-update ang ating Pangulo. How often? Every quarter, in-update po ang ating Pangulo. So that minomonitor nila lahat ng infrastructure projects. At meron ho silang real-time dashboard. In fact, nakita ko ho ito sa internet ho ng DepDev, sa website ho nila. May real-time dashboard ho sila, sino po ang funder, ano po yung delay, nasaan na po yung project. At ang infra committee naman po, ina-update naman ng ating Pangulo every quarter. No? So updated po ang ating Pangulo and the public on infrastructure projects.
Okay, then I have a follow-up question, Mr. President. So in that case, monitored po pala ng infrastructure committee.